What is up, everybody? How you doing tonight? So, time for the last of the 2020 Challenger deck openings. This is the Allied Fires one. This one is a really good deck, but it probably requires the most tweaking out of all of them that are in here, depending on your play level, though. Because if you know how the deck's really supposed to work, it actually works really well. But it's kind of, they try to do two different things with the deck, and I think that's where the problem lies with it, why it's not quite as powerful as the other ones in the Challenger deck series. But let's open it up and break in here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll talk a little bit about it. And of course, always feel free to let me know your opinions in the comments. I'm always open to hearing what other people think about these things, and if they've bought them, or they used them, or they plan on buying them. I'm really impressed with these Challenger decks. I think they did a great job with them this time. They're definitely the best Challenger decks they've ever come up with, in my opinion. Here's your huge sheet of rules. I forgot to mention in the other ones, there is a card list on the side of the box. It tells you everything that's in there, so if you do tweak the deck or break it up or whatever and decide you want to put it back to factory settings, there you go. There's your card list on the side of the box. They don't include it on the sheet inside like they did in the old ones. It's actually on the outside of the box here, but I kind of wish they hadn't done that. I kind of wish they'd have included a sheet that you could have kept inside with it, because, you know, a lot of people are probably going to lose these or throw them away or whatever. But anyway, there you go. Let's break in here and see what cards we get. If you've watched my other videos on these, I can't stress enough that every single one of these, you get more value in the cards than the decks cost, because they're selling for about 20 to 25 right now if you buy them by the set of 4. So, and you can probably even find some little bit better deals if you buy them in bulk like I did. So, here we go. So, right on top, you see there's a Fae of Wishes, which is, you know, just an awesome card. I believe there's more Fae of Wishes in. Yep, there's more Fae of Wishes in here. They keep doing that. And then we also have Kenrith, the Return King. This was the Throne of Eldraine buy a box promo, I believe, because I didn't get back in the game until after Throne had already come out. So I wasn't able to get very many of these. I've got a couple that I picked up in the collector's boosters, but that's it. So these are kind of hard cards to get. So this is a very valuable card that's in here. And it's a very important card for the deck. And that's one of the big problems with this deck, is that there's only one of these in here. You really kind of want to have 4 of these in here, or at least 2 or 3. 3 would be good, but 2 might work, but 3 would be best if you can't get 4, which 4 is kind of hard to get because these just aren't out there very much. So as you can see, he's a 5-drop 5/5, but he's a legendary creature, human noble. For 1 red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. That's huge. For a green and a white, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. That's a permanent counter. For a white and 2 colorless, target player gains 5 life. That's pretty big. For a blue and 3 colorless, target player draws a card. That one's kind of weak. That's probably the one you wouldn't use very often. And then for black and 4 colorless, put target creature card from a graveyard, not your graveyard, a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So you got that. So that could come in pretty handy if you got a really important creature. I mean, 5 to just bring it back and put it right on the battlefield. But the red and the green are massive, and then the white one can probably save you for quite a bit in a game. So he's a great kind of creature to have in here. But you definitely probably want more than the one. Next up, we got Deafening Clarion. 3 of those. It's a pretty valuable board wipe from Guilds of Ravnica. You can, for 1 white, 1 red, and 1 colorless, you can choose 1 or both. Deafening Clarion deals 3 damage to each creature. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So, pretty awesome board wipe. I hate being on the receiving end of Deafening Clarions. I get them all the time. It seems like I'm always playing against people that are using this deck, and they wipe me out all the time. Next up, we got the 2 Fae of Wishes. So Fae of Wishes are an adventure card. You may choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand. That's awesome. Obviously, it's only for the sideboard when you're playing in Standard. If you're playing Tabletop Magic, you can pretty much go into your collection and grab anything you want. But he's a 2-drop 1/4 flyer, and with the ability, 1 blue, 1 colorless, discard 2 cards, return Fae of Wishes to his owner's hand. So If you block incorrectly and he's going to die, you can bring him back to your hand and then recast him next turn. So, next up we got Drawn from Dreams. We got 2 of those. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, in a random order, sorry. For 2 blue, 2 colorless. Not bad. And then we got the Fires of Invention. And this is what they kind of tried to build the deck around. I don't like the Fires of Invention, honestly. It was really cool when it first came out, but I'm kind of thinking its days are numbered. So what it is it's an enchantment, 1 red, 3 colorless. You can cast spells only during your turn, and you can cast no more than 2 spells each turn. You may cast spells with converted mana costs less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana costs. So that's a huge upside, but it's also a huge downside. I don't like limiting myself to how many spells I can cast in a turn, and I don't like limiting myself to not being able to cast spells during other people's turn. I personally would probably take the Fires of Invention out of this deck, even though that's kind of what they think it's built around, and that's what they named it. They named it Allied Fires. And I would turn this into more of what's called the Super Friends deck, because it's got all the Planeswalkers for the Super Friends deck. So that's my opinion on that. You guys may have a differing opinion. I know a lot of people love the Fires of Invention because you can cast 2 big spells every turn. So there is that. You can throw out 2 Planeswalkers in a turn that you got lands for. But this guy right here, I think, is the more important card in the deck. So Sarcana Masterless. He's a red Planeswalker, 2 red, 3 colorless, 5 loyalty counters when he comes into play. I know the print's kind of small on here. My camera's not the greatest, but whenever a creature attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. And his +1 is until end of turn, each Planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature and gains flying. And then his -3 is create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So you can get a lot of dragons out really quick with this guy. So, and because you got a ton of Planeswalkers in this deck, which we'll get to, you can, how the Super Friends deck works is you get a bunch of Planeswalkers out there, and you got all these Planeswalker abilities popping off, and you have no creatures. So you use a lot of board wipes to board wipe everybody else's creatures, seeing how you have no creatures. You just got Planeswalkers. And then every turn you pop Sarkhan, turn them all into 4/4 dragons, and fly over for a ton of damage. By the time you get Sarkhan out, you probably 1 or 2 turns you win the game, because you board wipe all their creatures, they've got nothing to block with, and then you turn all your Planeswalkers into 4/4 dragons. If you got 5 Planeswalkers, there's 20 damage right there. So, yeah. And then we got Time Wipe. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. Really, I think you could probably go with a better card for that, because really the only creature in the deck, I think, is the Kenrith. And, yeah, I don't know. Don't know that you really even need to bother with that one. You probably just need more good board wipes. Next up, you got Mugen the Ineffable. Mugen's pretty awesome. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. I think he's one of the few colorless spells in here, though. But he's a 6-drop, 4 loyalty counters. His +1 is exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When the creature token leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. So it's kind of a blocker with a card draw attached to it, eventually. But his -3 is destroy a target permanent that's 1 or more colors. So basically his -3 is the big draw for Mugen, because you can pop anything. Destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Anything but a land, pretty much. And then here's the other awesome thing, is they actually put a shock land in here. I wish they'd have put a play set of them, but that would have really been overvaluing these big time, because these are probably, I think the Steam event's probably like $7 or $8. So Guilds of Ravnica, one of the best cards in the set. Good old Shockland, Island and Mountain. Counts as both, so you can actually fetch it, which is awesome. Then we got a Temple of Enlightenment. Nobody cares about that. Temple of Epiphany. Nobody cares about that. Temple of Triumph. Nobody cares about that. Then we got some Banishing Lights. There's only 2. That's another downside. I think you really want to kind of run 3 or 4 of these to get rid of early problems, They're giving you problems early on in the game because it's only 1 white and 2 colorless. So Banishing Lights, great card. Then we got Kasmina is another Planeswalker. Spells your opponents cast that target a creature or planeswalker you control cost 2 more to cast, so that's pretty handy. And then she's a 4-drop with 5 loyalty counters. Her -2 is create a 2/2 blue wizard creature token. Draw a card, then discard a card. So you got 3 of them. And then Narset, good old Narset. Narset's awesome. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. So if your opponent's trying to do a bunch of card draw stuff, she just locks them down. She's a 3-drop with 5 loyalty counters, which is great. And then her -2 is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So with her out, your opponents can't really respond to much you're doing because they can't draw more than 1 card each turn. So they're not going to have a whole lot of card draw capability. And then you're going to use this to look at the top 4 cards of your library and then put 1 into your hand. And then you're going to turn her into a dragon with Sarcana and fly over for 4 damage. So there's that. So next up, Omen of the Sea. We got a full play set of those. This one I could take or leave. It does give you card advantage. Helps you get to what you need faster because it's flash, and when it comes into the battlefield, you scry 2 and then draw a card. And then you can sack it to scry 2 again. Little bit much on the mana. I would probably prefer to put Opts in there because there's nothing. I don't think there's anything that requires any kind of blue devotion or anything in here. So I would probably go with Opts because they're cheaper. But yeah, it's up to you. This does give you a little bit more scry capability, obviously, because you end up getting a total of two scry 2s, but it costs you 5 mana to get that. So. Next up is Seeley. Seeley's awesome in this deck. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless Acerbo artifact creature token. So a good little chump blocker. She comes in with 5. She's a 3-drop that can be either blue or red and a colorless. And then her -2 is target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So that can come in handy. Interplanar Beacon is a land that basically... This is going to be kind of important. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker spell, you gain 1 life, which is awesome. But the big thing is you can filter it, so you can tap 1 colorless or so any other land and tap this, add 2 mana of different colors. So if you're color locked on something, you can use the Interplanar Beacon, which there's 4 of them in here, to filter basically your colors, because there's so many different colors in this deck. This deck is, 3 colors? Yeah. So you got 3 colors, and a lot of these Planeswalkers will take 2 of the same color, and you may not have that out there. So the Interplanar Beacon is going to help with that. Plus, you get the life gain every time you drop a Planeswalker, and it's mostly Planeswalkers in here. So then you got Saltwater Cliffs. You got 3 of those. Tranquil Coves. You got 3 of those. Winchguard Crag. You got 4 of those. And then Islands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mountains, 2 of those. 1, 2 plains. Then we got a Acerbo and Wizard token. Another Acerbo and Wizard token. An adventure card and with a spirit token on the back. A Acerbo and Dragon, a dragon, and a spirit. I think they kind of underestimated the dragon tokens. They only gave you, 2 of them? Yeah, only 2 dragon tokens. Odds are you're going to have a lot more dragons than that. If you're playing the deck more like the Super Friends deck, you'll have a lot more than 2 dragons out at any given time. Because every time you pop Sarcana to create dragons with your Planeswalkers, hopefully you'll have at least 3 or 4 Planeswalkers out when you do that. So, yep, that's mainly what I would do. Is I would probably take out the fires and put in a few more Planeswalkers and make it more of a Super Friends deck. And I would put the 4th Sarcana in here, which, guess what's in the sideboard? So, let's get into our sideboard, take a look at that real quick. And get all this out of the way. All right, so first up we got Mass Manipulation. This one's even more annoying than board wipes, because you don't board wipe, you actually take all of your opponent's Planeswalkers and creatures and gain control of them. That's way more annoying than board wiping them. So this card is just obnoxious. I hate playing against this card, but if it's on your side, that's pretty awesome. I would recommend some mana ramp if you're going to main deck this, though, because it takes 4 blue and 2 times X. So it costs a lot of mana to do it. So you do want to get some ramp in there. But then here's our 4th Sarcana, the Masterless. So I would main deck him for sure. like I said, because I would use it more as a Super Friends deck. I wouldn't worry so much about the fires. But that's just me. Let me know if you guys feel the opposite, if you think fires is more important. If you think the fires makes the deck work better, I don't know. Then we got another time wipe. And then we got Ashiok. Ashiok, I would totally put more Ashioks in here, and I would main deck her, because spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their library. So they can't search for anything when Ashiok's out. She's only a 3-drop that can be black or blue and 1 colorless, and she's 5. And target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. With Theros Beyond Death out now, graveyard manipulation is at an all-time high. So being able to get rid of your opponent's graveyard right now is huge. I'm not even worried about the mill. I'm worried about getting rid of their graveyard. So she can do that every single turn. She can get rid of their graveyard, so those creatures aren't coming back. They're not recasting stuff from their graveyard every turn. Then we got Devout Decree. Exile target creature or planeswalker that's black or red. Scry 1. You got 2 of those. Good addition for the sideboard. Dolphin Hand of Control. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. He's 1 white or blue and 2 colorless, and he's a 5. And his -1 is until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by target permanent and opponent controls. Again, I think I would mainboard him because he's a lot cheaper than some of the other planeswalkers in there. And he's just going to be a 4/4 dragon at each turn anyway. But that -1 is awesome because you can prevent all damage that a certain, if they got a big creature that's causing you a lot of trouble, you can prevent all the damage from that creature until the next turn. Or if they're playing the Cavalcade deck, you can prevent all the damage from the Cavalcade. So, awesome card. I would definitely put him in the main deck just because. Dovin's Veto. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Pretty good for the sideboard. But they only put 1 in here, which is kind of silly. Why would you only have 1? Why? Why 1? Why just 1? Anyway, moving on. Fry. This spell can't be countered. Fry deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker that's white or blue. Definitely a good sideboard card for this deck. Might even put a few more in there. Revoke Existence. Absolutely 100% great sideboard card. Might even want a main deck one. Because there's a lot of enchantments now that we're in the Beyond Theros, Beyond Death era. There's a lot of enchantments running around causing problems. So, enchantment creatures, yeah, I would definitely probably mainboard 1 and put a few more in the sideboard. And Thirst for Meaning. Draw 3 cards and then discard 2 cards unless you discard an enchantment card. There's 3 of those in here. I didn't really pay too much attention to how many enchantments we had. I think Fires might have been really the only one in the main deck. How many enchantments do we even have? Is that card even usable? I think Fires is really the only enchantment in here. Why would they? Yeah, okay. Oh, the Banishing Light, but you don't want to get rid of that because that one's doing a lot of good for you. So, oh, the Omens, okay. All right, the Omens, okay, now it makes sense. I was going to say, why would you? Okay, so you got the Omens, you can discard and draw 2 cards, so that's probably helpful. So that makes sense. I don't know. Like I said, though, I wouldn't really run the Omens myself. I'd probably run more like Ops and stuff, or the Thirst for Meaning just straight off the bat. So, anyways, there you have it. There's the Allied Fires of Invention deck. Allied Super Friends Fires of Invention deck. So, this one just kind of like the Flash of Ferocity, I think, or the Cavalcade chart. Kind of all these decks. It seems like they kind of try to put 2 decks into one. I think Final Adventure is the only one that's kind of straight up. They just kind of wimped out a little bit on some of the rares. But all when they try to kind of combine 2 different decks ideas, I think. And they still work really good. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I think these are the best Challenger decks they've ever done. But and the value is just unbelievable. But there is they do need some tweaking on a lot of them. And I think you need to kind of figure out which direction you want to go with the deck and then go all that direction instead of trying to kind of meander between 2 different concepts. So, like I said, with this one, I like the Super Friends deck better. I like the Sarcana, turn everything into dragons after you board wipe everything. So I put a lot more board wipes and take out the Fires and take out the Omens, put in some Ops and a lot more board wipes and stuff. stuff to get through the deck a little faster, find what I need, and then get out as many planeswalkers. I put more planeswalkers that have better abilities in there and that are a little bit cheaper to get them out a little faster. And, you know, that way as soon as you drop Sarkhan, it's time to hit the ground running and board wipe everything and then send a bunch of dragons over and win the game. So that's what I think about this one. Let me know what you think about it and what your opinion is in the comments there and what you would do to tweak it. And if you picked any of these up or you're planning on picking them up, let me know. And also let me know how everything's going in your town with your LGSs and all that. Are they shut down? Do you think they're going to be able to weather the storm? Let me know. I'm curious. So, all right, guys. Hopefully we'll see you in the next video. There's probably a couple suggestions up in the corners for you. And we'll see you next time. I really appreciate your time. You guys have a great night. Bye.